Hey everyone, it's your friend Shawn McBride here, another edition of McBride Attorneys Law Show. We're going to be focusing in on the payroll protection program, getting you some more answers to questions. So if you've been following us here, this has become a series on the McBride Attorneys Law Show YouTube channel, looking at the payroll protection program, looking at what's happening here, and really trying to get you the answers that you need. So a number of questions have come in that we're going to cover today, maybe jump into some other aspects, but we're going to be looking at the forgiveness application. We're going to be particularly thinking about self-employed individuals, um, people who have kind of non-traditional situations and how do they plug into this form. And we're also going to be looking at what do we do with the loan numbers and filling it out, and what to include and what to exclude. And there's also been some questions on who's an owner and what does that mean. So let's give me a second here and we'll jump back into our favorite friend, the SBA Payroll Protection Program loan document, and we'll also be looking at some other things. So once again, cruise over to sba.gov to pull up the payroll protection application. Important note here is make sure you go to sba.gov, not sba.com, because .com is a private enterprise, and of course then you'll have to deal with whatever influences or bias, right? We generally want to go directly to the source. Here we have the actually SBA document. We can see up in the browser bar, it's sba.gov, providing it. So we've got a real government form here. You've got the control numbers and expiration date up in the corner, as you would expect on the government form. So we're in the real deal here. We're looking at the payroll protection loan forgiveness application. One of the first questions that come up here, and I'm going to pop back up on the screen with you for just a second here, is what happens if the loan is sold? So there's some news going on there, and you also, if you go look at the frequently asked questions, it contemplates that somebody may make a loan to you, and then as part of that loan, the lender would sell it to a third party. And this is very common in mortgages and other things. From your perspective, as far as getting forgiveness, getting the loan repaid, shouldn't matter. You have a contract, there's SBA guidance, there's laws on point. So the point is you have your business deal. Now, who you have your business deal with may change. That lender has the ability under the SBA guidelines to sell it to another lender. So you have to check that. May well be that you end up filling out your paperwork with another party, or your original lender may end up servicing it. We're just going to have to see how that plays out. But from a forgiveness application, from the fundamental business deal, you're okay. Just be very careful, of course. I've always been concerned about the selling of mortgages, changing of lenders with fraud situations. So make sure you're repaying the right person. If you get a letter purporting, or email, etc., purporting that your loan has been sold, I highly recommend you go back and verify with your lender that that indeed did happen. All right, so we're going back here to sharing the screen here. We're back into the loan forgiveness application, and the question that has come up numerous times. By the way, if you have questions, drop them at McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube. You'll find this video. You'll find my other videos. Drop your questions there. That is the most efficient way to get a hold of me. If you can't do that, LinkedIn, Shawn McBride. Also post these on Facebook in a number of locations, including my personal page, the Shawn McBride fans and audiences page. Feel free to check that out. And my Business Leaders with Vision group. If you are indeed a business leader, make sure you fill out the full contact form, and you can join me and other business leaders in that group. Would love to have you come hang out with us. So back into the application, looking forward to your questions as well. So I want to encourage them. I love getting questions. Drop them on YouTube. If you're seeing this McBride Attorneys Law Show, make sure you're subscribed. And if not there, you can find me one of those alternate ways. So looking at this, what many people are now finding to be more and more confusing application as we dig into the detail. Where do we go here? So you'll notice here there's payroll costs on line 1, and then there's also salary reductions, and then we work through all this. Now, a lot of this flows from Schedule A, line 10, so we need to now flip to Schedule A to figure out how we're computing up these numbers. And so When we look at this here, it's very important that we read the instructions for the lines. Now we're looking at the instructions for Schedule A, as you'll see up here at the top of the page. The browser header knocked it out, but instructions for PPP Schedule A. You'll see here specifically, it may be confusing, but it talks about employees, 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 and then down here later, it talks about amounts paid to owners. So here, I think, it's important that we look at this instruction. So the employer or the owner is going to go on line 9, which raises another question that came up. Well, what is an owner, right? So we're getting this nesting of questions. And if you search through this document, it doesn't tell you directly what is an owner. So we got to figure that out. So here, in another browser window, you'll see I've searched on Treasury.gov and I found this payroll protection frequently asked questions. So let me show this to you. This is as of May 19th. So it's an updated document, payroll protection program loans, frequently asked questions. Again, coming from Treasury.gov. So again, we have a trusted source. I'm going to go back here to the owner. See, I've searched the word owner in this document. So you can find this as well. And if we start looking at Treasury.gov, we're going to start some guidance here. And what we start seeing here, and this isn't direct authority, right? So as an attorney, we love direct authority, right? We love something in the statute that says it, right? And so that's the best place of authority. And if you don't have a statute on point, then we look at regulations, and that loan application would kind of be equivalent to regulations. Here from the SBA, it's how they're going to handle it. It gives us a lot of guidance. Well, the SBA doesn't fully answer your question, what's the owner? So we start looking at secondary sources. And here we have Treasury.gov telling us what an owner is. And also I've done some alternate research, which is a little more complicated than what we'll do in this video here, which shows that this 20% thing starts showing up in other places in SBA statutes. So good guidance here is we're seeing everything's being handled as 20% for an owner. So I think that's pretty good guidance. Good time to drop in my regular disclaimer, which is, we're talking about legal issues. I can't give you legal advice over a video. We're not attorney-client through this video. I'm just talking very generally here. Go consult your counsel, consult your accountant before you fill these things out. But I'm giving you my best take on this stuff. And here you see the 20% ownership stake for an owner. So that number pops up in other places. So I think we should look at 20% ownership interest. So if you own more than 20%, going back now to that PPP application, you're probably flowing in on line 9, the owner line. The next question becomes, who do you include or exclude for employees, right? So here, I don't see a breakout for owners versus non-owners. So I'm getting a little bit of comfort here as we look at this, that in terms of your employee calculation, that the owner should probably be included. I could certainly tell you from a logical standpoint, you're going to have this base period looking at the past, right, that we've talked about before, the number of employees you've had historically. And then we're going to have this calculation for purposes of this. So be consistent, right? So certainly if you include the owner in calculation for historical, you count the owner as employee, then you're going to count them over here. And if you don't include the owner over there, you're going to include it here. But I think based on this guidance here, as I read it, it doesn't make a differentiation between owners and non-owners. So if you read the lines 1 through 9, they are separating out the owners, right? It's clear that compensation to owners is a separate line. But looking at the calculation for employees, there is no separation for owners. So I've looked at that. I don't see in the employee section that there is a separation for owners. So there you go. Another question that came in was about mortgage interest and what do you do if you work from home? I think that's a little more complicated question. I think perhaps that may be one that's falling through the cracks, because if you read through here, it talks in terms, if we're, and now I'm going to scroll back to the early part of the application here, and it talks about business mortgage interest payments. So the question is, you know, would your home mortgage, which potentially working through the tax rules, if you have a portion of your house dedicated, you qualify as a home office deduction. Potentially part of that could be deducted as a business expense. It kind of flows through if you follow those tax rules on home office deductions. Potentially you're looking at a tax deduction there. But here it's talking in terms of business mortgage. So I'm not quite sure that your home is going to be a business mortgage. So I think it's something we need to dig in more. I've not seen any direct authority on it. So definitely something to research a little more. But I think that may be one that missed. There's a lot of misses here, right, in the way this thing has been set up. There's timing issues with payments, which they started to pick up with the alternate covered period. We picked that up in the questions in the original video on this. So if you go to McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube, scroll back, you'll find a video just generally talking about the PPP loan forgiveness application. Figure that out. We'll talk about this payroll schedule in the covered period and alternate covered period, which you see here. So there was some correction there on the payroll cost side. But I don't think they've done similar fixes here for mortgage interest. I've not seen it personally in the guidance I've seen. There is a lot of guidance coming out and coming out quickly. So if you've seen something I haven't seen, drop it in the comments, McBride Attorneys Law Show on YouTube, and I will really appreciate that, and it will help us advance things. So, folks, there's some more questions for you. We're working every day to get answers here, still digging through this for clients and just for viewers on YouTube. So if you have a question, drop it at YouTube, McBride Attorneys Law Show. Just go down to the comment section, put your comment in there. If you can't get there, you can check me out on LinkedIn. But want to hear from you, want to know what questions you have, want to know what problems you have. We're really a community here. We're bringing it together. We're trying to get the answers here and help business owners and business leaders like yourself get ahead. So subscribe to McBride Attorneys Law Show channel for me, please. That way I can bring you more tips. If you're a business owner and business leader, I want to help you on your journey and bring you more answers. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, looking forward to reading your comments here, and we'll be chatting again very soon. All right, folks, Shawn McBride signing off.